Hi everyone, I'm Steph with Snakes and Psychology. That is Wasabi, one of my boa constrictors, and today we have 4 tips for you for how to become more productive by being less productive. So let's get into it. So tip number 1 is to make space for daydreaming, and this is where we're not trying to introduce any conscious thoughts to our minds. We usually take in far more information than we're really able to process, which is why most of us lie awake at night. So all I would encourage you to do is not fill every little free moment with new information. So if you're walking to or from somewhere, maybe don't put earphones in. Or if you're in the car, maybe don't put music or a podcast on. Now, those spaces can be useful if you're consciously trying to learn something. Like if you're trying to learn a new language, that's a great way of doing some passive learning. That's actually how I managed to learn Russian. But those moments can be really, really useful for just letting all the things that we've taken in just kind of percolate through our brains, and this can actually lead to some really creative thinking and some useful ideas. The only slight problem with that is that it can lead to rumination, which is just kind of chewing over and over and over the same negative thoughts. If you do find yourself ruminating, it probably means there's something that's getting to you, which may not even be the thing you're actually ruminating about, that you should probably try and talk about. If you are in a position to afford therapy, I can't recommend it enough. I'm with a psychodynamic psychotherapist, but that's by the by. If you find yourself really resistant to this idea, maybe have a think about, is it because I'm kind of anxious and I just don't want to hear my own thoughts? Unfortunately, your own thoughts will make themselves heard, whether you want them to or not. And I know what it's like to have a really, really loud, noisy, scary brain that just will not leave you alone, and it won't let you enjoy life. I know what that feels like. So if walking around with no headphones in or giving yourself those blank moments starts to become anxiety provoking in and of itself, you use whatever you need to help yourself. But I would just gently encourage, if you're in enough of a peaceful state of mind to do so, why not let yourself daydream if you have a bit of a chance. So tip number 2 is to make time for output. As important as it is not to put anything in your brain, it's also really important once you've done a little bit of processing to actually output some of those thoughts. And this might actually be a chance for you to think things through at a slightly deeper level. I absolutely love journaling. I can't recommend it enough. I haven't tried the bullet journal method. I might give it a shot, although me being me, I didn't really like the idea of it because I much prefer kind of a free flow, stream of conscious, very sort of nebulous form of journaling that might not appeal to everyone, but I like it. But if you're someone that, you've got a blank bit of paper in front of you and a pen or a pencil, and you really don't know the first thing to write down, then why not have a go at a structured method? So tip number 3 is to do simple manual tasks while talking to yourself. And this will make you sound like an absolute psychopath if you live with someone, but never mind. You can pretend you're talking to them if you want. But if I'm alone and I'm doing something like ironing or tidying or cleaning, I kind of enjoy just talking to myself while doing it, because I think there is something in psychology about looking at different things helps your thoughts progress. Hence, going for a walk and looking at different things as they go past you can help your thoughts progress in a slightly more linear fashion, as opposed to just kind of going everywhere. And I think the same thing might be true of doing small tasks like, say, the housework. Or if you're doing a simple manual task with a friend, that can often lead to some really deep conversations. I had about a week of doing a relatively boring manual task with a friend we were taking down a structure, but it took about a week. But we were outside, the sun was shining, and I didn't know him that well to begin with, but after a while we had the deepest conversations, and I just felt so kind of heard and recognised, and I hope he felt the same way. And it was just because it made the conversation a tiny bit less intense, because we weren't just making kind of solid eye contact with each other. We were busy with our hands, we were doing things, and then as we were kind of lifting and shifting things together, we'd end up being like, yes, I think that, I've thought that as well. So that was a really nice experience. So talking to yourself or someone else. So tip number 4 is less of a suggestion and actually more of an observation on myself more than anyone else, and that I can't think creatively or constructively when I'm stuck in anxiety. And I'm sure that probably sounds like the most trite piece of garbage you've ever heard, but I think because I'm so used to being anxious and I'm so used to kind of reacting to things and kind of making what I would think of as quite kind of, executive, in the moment decisions, whereas in fact they're probably coming from more of a place of reactivity and anxiety, and I have a relatively kind of high energy, on the go kind of job anyway, which I'm hoping to leave soon. But it's only really when you get into that kind of fireside chat, kind of much slower form of thinking, that some really good creative thoughts and decisions come up. And John Cleese talks very eloquently about this, so please listen to John Cleese talking about creativity. And both systems are necessary, because you don't really want to be pondering your childhood when being chased by a lion, for instance. But then when you're not being chased by a lion, that much kind of slower, deeper form of thinking is so important. And I really, really like it when it happens, and especially when you find someone that you can really, really talk to, or even just by yourself. Which is why daydreaming is so important, that you can just sit there and then thoughts will kind of come to you. You don't really go looking for them, they find you. But you have to create a little bit of quietness and stillness for that to happen. So if you can possibly take your anxiety down and make some space using the first 3 tips, hopefully those kind of much more creative thoughts will come to you. So anyway, those were my 4 tips for being less productive to be more productive, and I hope they were helpful, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.